Hey guys, what's up? It's HyperDark19 bringing you the 2012 official Yu-Gi-Oh! Forbidden Limited ban list. It is a pretty interesting list. I'm not going to say good because I'm not a huge fan of this list, as many other people are not. You may or may not have heard people calling this the worst list ever. I don't think it's particularly good in that it does not take the format into account whatsoever. And a lot of the choices on here seem random as all hell, but we got to deal with it. So you might as well make the best of it and just consider how interesting this list is for what Konami decided to do with this format. Konami decided that not enough people were playing Ixies for them to make money, so they decided to make every strategy that wasn't based on Ixies monsters not at all a viable deck anymore. And they accomplished it. It's exactly what they did. First up, banned Trap Dust Shoot. Seeing somebody's hand and seeing what their strategy is before they even know about yours is broken. It's a -1 to your opponent for the entire rest of the game. And yeah, it was just broken in this format especially because so many people were keeping a lot of cards in their hand. The hands were bigger. Back in the 5 back row format, Dust Shoot was not a viable option, and now it's very much so. It was very overplayed, so I'm glad they decided to hit it. Not too sad seeing that card go. Everyone expected it pretty much. Good riddance. Next up, Trishula. Trishula was banned on this list, which I wanted to happen but didn't really expect. A lot of people said Brionac should go over Trishula. I disagree with that entirely. Brionac takes a lot of discards for it to give you an advantage. Trishula, just its successful summoning is a +1, because more than likely you use 3 cards to summon it, and you get to remove 3 of your opponent's cards, plus you get a 2700 beater. It's really getting too much abuse in things like Plant Synchro. It's just a broken and unfair card. I'm really not that unhappy to see it go. Next up, the 2 other cards on the ban list. This is a relatively short list, and a lot of cards got banned. Spore and Glow Up Bulb. Now, this came as a shock to me and I think everyone else, just because these cards are the heart of the plan engine and are the heart of a lot of synchro-based decks, and they got the axe, and things like Lonefire and Dandelion didn't. It just defies logic to me. But once, like I've said, with this list, Konami's aim was to make everything other than Xyz, including Synchro, a completely unviable deck type. And with banning 2 of the strongest tuners in the game, they've done that. I hated Plant Synchro while it was dominant, but it was on its way out. You really didn't need to put this hurt on it just to kick it out of the game entirely. But yeah, I mean, like I said, Ixi's format. Limited. First of all, Tech Genus Striker was limited. Another kind of, whoa, what the hell, kind of choice. TG Agents was a really, really popular deck in Japan. For them, Ixies haven't really taken off yet, as much as they have here. I mean, they don't have Tour Guide, for one thing, so that's one big setback for them. And Agents were really the ruling deck in Japan, especially TG Agents. Correct. Not only does it destroy TG Agents and overall the consistency of Agents as a whole, but not by itself, but in addition to the next card it does. But it destroys the TG engine itself. So I'm kind of disappointed. TGs were a cool toolbox option. I'm kind of disappointed to see the engine become inviable because of this. It kills the consistency of the TG engine and severely limits your synchro options. Once again, hitting the synchro-based strategies, they're just not going to be viable anymore. Also limited, Agent of Mystery Earth, another hit to Agents. This is the more severe one, actually, because it ruins the consistency of Agents as a whole. They can't search their Hyperion, they can't search their Venus. Really, the same thing happened to Agents that happened to Lightsworns. They've just become, now, without their consistency, an extremely sacky deck that will get random wins 10% of the time, but the other 90% won't do crap. Next up, Semi-Limited. This was a pretty short list. Marshmallow is semi-limited. I guess they were maybe trying to give something back to fairies. Hasn't seen any play. At 2, it's not going to change anything. It's not a really good card. I would always pick Reaper over it, just because of the extra discard ability. Makes it so much better. But yeah, Marshmallow's back at 2. If you want to abuse it, go right ahead. I really could care less if it was at 3. Lumina. One of the few things that I like about this list, Lumina comes back to 2. This gives some consistency back to Lightsworns. although I'm a little bit nervous about this being at 2 and Judgment Dragon being at 3. Although with the meta what it is, Windups, Inzektors, and Dino Rabbit right now, I'm not really worried about Lightsworns making a huge comeback. But maybe they will see a rise. Who knows? Maybe it'll become a viable tier 2 deck again instead of a sacky piece of crap. We'll see. Also, it might give a boost to Flamvel decks and other decks that use milling. So, like I said, I'm a fan of bringing consistency back to decks that were inviable, and I'm not a fan of Konami's practice of just making decks they don't like just totally unplayable. So, good for you, Lightsworn. Get back your Lumina. Have some fun with it. You deserve it. Emergency Teleport. Now that Dad is at 1 and Psychic Mind Master is banned, Psychics have really lost a lot of their momentum, and really the pure Psychic deck is dead. But with Emergency Teleport back in the game, who knows? Maybe it'll help Xyz strategies. Maybe it'll give a little bit of boost to the unplayable Synchro strategies that Konami seems to want to have happen. So, yeah, Emergency Teleports is another cool toolbox thing, I think, for casual players. I don't think it'll make a huge splash in the meta, but we'll see. It's pretty cool to have it back, though. I love E-Telly. Xian Smoke Signal back at 2. This brings a little consistency and gives a little love back to Samurais after they got smashed on the last list. Yeah, with Smoke Signal back, I mean, they can search out their Kagemushas and Kagekis quicker, but they're going to have to be a little smarter about what they synchro for because they can't just spam 3 Xians anymore. They only have the 1. So they're going to have to be a little more creative about what they do with their monsters and their tuners. So, yeah, we'll see about that. Level Limit Area B at 2, like I said, same with Marshmallow. I could really give a crap if this was a 3. If Gravity Bind is off the list, this should be 2. But they're taking it baby steps at a time, so, oh well. Torrential Tribute. This being at 2 makes me a little bit nervous because, I mean, mass board removal always makes me a little nervous. But I guess it's kind of Konami's compensation for the outrage that this list was sure to generate among players of the format. Say a little bit. We know we left the spamming Saki decks intact, but here's a little extra protection for you. Have fun with it. I'm not really a fan of 2 Torrential. I was fine with it at 1, but I mean, if you're giving me 2, I'll play with 2. It does give a little extra protection against swarming. A little bit of extra protection measure. So yeah, I'll deal with it if that's what you want to do. Ultimate Offering. This being at 2, again, this thing goes up and down on the list more often than I change my socks. So I really don't see why Ultimate Offering was put at 2, especially after it didn't make waves at 3. So whatever, it's Konami logic. Who knows? Maybe there's some kind of broken combo we haven't seen yet, but whatever. Ultimate Offering's at 2. Cool. Last but not least on the semi-limited list, probably the most shocking thing on this entire list, Reborn Tengu at 2. Yes, Tengu did get hit. It should, in my opinion, even though I've never been a huge fan of Tengu, Plant Synchro was already on its way out, and it really wasn't necessary to hit this card. It should have been Tour Guide, but it's the Xyz. It's the whole Xyz craze again. Tengu is good with Xyz, but it's way too spammy with Synchros, and they just wanted to get rid of Synchro consistency, so they put Tengu to 2. At 2, Tengu is pretty much useless. There's really not a whole lot you can do with only 2 Tengus, kind of like Malicious. So, yeah, expect to see a drop-off in Tengu play, just because it's at 2 instead of 3. It's just not viable anymore. Then, last but not least, Unlimited, we have Call of the Haunted. Now, I called for this to come back, but I'm a little bit nervous still now that since Monster Reborn is still not banned. So, we'll see what happens with this. Like I said, with Monster Reborn, it kind of makes for a potentially really, really sacky bringing back from the graveyard type shenanigans, especially with 3 calls, but it didn't make a splash at 2, so it's doubtful that it's going to make a splash at 3, so I guess it's fair, all in all. Yeah, that's it for the ban list. I'm going to make a separate video talking about the impact of this ban list on the meta, so yeah, tune in next time. This is HyperDark19 signing out.